Next session is entitled Classic Gaming Inspirations Part 2, which if you were here last year, you would have seen a series of games that originally appeared on the Apple II and were made for more current systems. So this will involve more of that, because we all know the Apple II is a fantastic gaming machine. Thanks, Ken.
Thank you, Andy. So, briefly, my inspiration for this session last year was that in January of last year, PC World magazine ran a blog post called Classic Apple II Games That Inspired Today's Greats. And I found this article. I really enjoyed the walk down memory lane this author took of classic Apple II games, but I felt it was a little bit incomplete. He didn't talk about modern games or what exactly the impact these games had. Nonetheless, I thought it was a cool article, and since I found it on PC World, that authorized me to republish it in whole on Computer World. And for some reason, maybe it's because you don't go to PC World looking for Apple II stories. It was only once I got it on Computer World that people actually read it, and people started linking to it and talking about it, and the sites mentioned in this blog post got a ton of hits. So I thought, oh, well, I guess there is a lot of interest in this topic. So I decided to take it that step further that I was interested in. So I displayed a bunch of games last year that were for the Apple II and then inspired primarily Macintosh games. Sheppy has written some juiciest articles about iPhone games, and a lot of Apple II games can be found almost exactly as they originally appeared, except on the iPhone. But I'm going to focus on the Mac. My goal is to do the session without any emulation or internet access. So let's see how well that goes. I'll start with the classic lemonade stand. Everybody probably played this game in grade school because it teaches you some basic economics and get past the introduction screen. It was mostly text-based. You decide how much lemonade you want to make each day, and there are various expenses that you need to consider. How much the sugar is going to cost, how much the lemons are going to cost, how much your mom is going to charge you. She starts off by giving you some free things, and then she pulls back as you establish your economic stability. There are variables to consider, like the weather. How much do you want to advertise? How much are people going to buy that day? Is it really hot? Is there street construction that day and nobody's going to be walking down your sidewalk? It's a really fun game, and actually Eric Shepard did an Apple II GS version that's freeware that you can download from his site. This video is showing you the original. Unsurprisingly, there is a modern equivalent, and it is called Lemonade Stand, of all things. What's it called? Who said that? Who said what? Looks and sounds pretty similar. I think actually his goal was to replicate an Apple II version as much as possible. Let's have three people play.
Yeah.
Now it doesn't let you name the players, you just have to remember what order you're going in. So today is kind of cloudy. People aren't that hot and thirsty, so they might not be drinking a lot of lemonade. You have $2 to start with, and I'm going to make 10 glasses. I'm not going to advertise at all, because if they don't know about me yet, then I don't want to waste money talking to them, even though I just started. I'm going to charge 8 cents each. Now, what about you, Carl? How many glasses are you going to make?
Oh, about 10.
Do you want to advertise?
Let's do one time.
And how much do you want to charge?
7 cents.
And Michael?
Let's see. 10 glasses, 2 summers, 5 cents.
So this is specifically, this is my report, because it says stand 1, and I lost 20 cents, which is 10% of my total assets, which is not a good day for me. Carl lost 35 cents, because that 40% chance of bad weather escalated into thunderstorms, and nobody's going to go out in the rain to buy a glass of soggy lemonade. And Michael lost quite a bit. So I was the most profitable, and I didn't even make a dime. And the game just keeps going. It pretty much goes almost infinitely. You know, it won't let you make more than you can afford. I sold 90 of my 100 glasses, or I sold all my glasses actually. So, some pretty classic sound effects. It's definitely trying to invoke the original Apple II spirit. So that's one reason I like this game. It's pretty simple. I showed this to somebody who'd never played the Apple II version. We played for like 10 minutes, and the game never really stops. It's pretty hard to go bankrupt unless you're trying to go bankrupt, like I just did, and I failed. So if you try to fail and you fail, I don't know, anyway.
Then you succeed.
Is that a success?
Let's see, let's go to alphabetically Arkanoid. This is an arcade game based on the classic Breakout or Brickout, however you want to call it. It is a little bit more colorful and it has power-ups. Like he's using a laser right now. And then he split his ball into 3 parts. He only has to keep one in the air though. There are all different levels. And this game, unlike Breakout, actually has a storyline. You are a spaceship who has become disabled in space, and so you put yourself into an escape pod, but the evil entity that lives in space, named Deux, I think his name is, captures your escape pod and thrusts you into this realm where you're forced to bounce balls off your ship. And he actually is a boss on the final level. He's somebody you have to fight, which is kind of cool.
In Breakout, you were a prisoner trying to break out of jail.
Oh, you were?
On the arcade cabinets, yes, there was art that indicated that.
Interesting. I did not know that. Thank you for that clarification. Then I feel foolish.
I mean, I would say the storyline on Arkanoid is more developed. I would say with Breakout, that's more of a theme.
It probably isn't presented anywhere in the game, Breakout.
No, it is not.
It's just on the cabinet.
Correct.
But as you saw in the little intro video that Arkanoid showed you. Now, there are a couple of other Macintosh games that are very similar to this. One is called Phoenix Ball. And it's very easy to use. You just move your trackpad left and right. It's a sort of an unusual angle, which I'm not crazy about. Where you just push your mouse button, and there are bomb pieces that you can hit that explode everything near it. Which makes it much easier, because usually you're trying really hard to get that one last piece in the corner, and your ball bounces around forever to get that one last piece. But if you can just explode something near it, that makes it much easier to get by.
So all the glowing ones are bombs?
It seems that way.
We don't know when it's going to be a bomb.
I haven't seen any power-ups yet in this game.
Actually, I kind of like that angle.
Ooh.
There you go.
Oh,
Well, there's no.
Where'd you get that one? I like that.
a little bit of a theme on this level.
What's this one called?
This game is called Phoenix Ball. And it's a pretty rockin' soundtrack, which is kind of neat. Not that anybody really plays Arkanoid for the soundtrack. There don't seem to be any enemies in this one, unlike Arkanoid, where there are always little things floating around that you don't get a ton of points for, but they bounce your ball in unexpected directions anyway.
Oh, waiter pedal.
Oh. Now, I seem to have just gotten a power before I died that actually reversed my controls. So I tried to go left and I went right, which is why I missed the ball. But anyway, that's Phoenix Ball. And actually, I'm going to show you another game that's also very similar to that. And I think this game is actually made by a company that Sheppy used to work for. Oh, there we go. It's far more developed, which may not be a good thing. A lot of different levels and planets to play on. You have to unlock. This game is actually shareware, so you do have to buy the full version. So you can
Whoa.
Yeah. So there's a ranking system in addition. I guess it's like a scoring system. Got sort of laser there that I can reflect off my ball. That lets you know the angle of the shot. When it bounces off your paddle, it'll go in the direction that the laser is pointing. So that way, it's not just guesswork as to where it's going to go next. You can actually predict. That was a very powerful laser power-up.
The laser isn't actually shooting anything, it's just a naming device.
Correct. It's purely a gameplay assistant. And in fact, I wouldn't be surprised if it disappears on the later levels as you get more advanced. Oh, that was unexpected. And of course, things might get in the way of your ball to throw it off the expected course. So I collected all 5 gold rings on this level, which I think means I can advance to a next level. And there's still those 2 floaty things. Your screen actually isn't cropped off. You're seeing the same thing I'm seeing. So those 3 remaining pieces are going off the screen where I cannot hit them, which is sort of cheating in my opinion. Uh-oh, here comes something. Shield expander. So it just made my paddle bigger, basically.
Ready.
So you can see that this game has a lot more gameplay mechanics. It's far more complex than Arkanoid. If you're just looking for a breakout game, you probably want to go with Phoenix Ball, which I previously showed you. Despite the presence of explosives and missiles, it's still a little bit less complicated than this one. If you want to play Arkanoid itself, I recommend Arkanoid. I keep closing these folders. Okay, Asteroids. It's a classic game. Very memorable soundtrack. Very easy to replicate when you're learning how to play almost any instrument. Basically, this is the way I used to play because there were too many controls for me. So master thrusting and reversing and turning. I would just basically sit in the corner of the screen, act like a turret, and shoot everything and hope it didn't come anywhere near me. Not very effective. But it also has shields that you can use to deflect some asteroids. It has warp, which instantly places you at a random spot on the board, usually right in the path of an oncoming asteroid, which is awesome. But one of the earliest games used vector graphics, which is pretty cool. And there are a couple of Macintosh games like it, and as you can imagine, they are not quite as simple anymore. This one is called Maelstrom. It has, you like Maelstrom? It has network play. We can hook up together and play online.
Also multi-platform.
Ooh.
Oh, it's from Ambrosia. Very good.
Yes, Ambrosia has a number of Macintosh games. They recently participated in the Humble Indie Bundle, if you heard of that. It's where a bunch of developers were basically giving away games in exchange for a donation to charity, which is very generous of them. But there are the controls. That was...
Oh yeah, I remember that one.
Actually, I wouldn't be surprised if that sound effect was taken from Star Trek. It sounds like the Enterprise firing.
Yes, there's all kinds of sound effects in here taken from everywhere.
Photon torpedoes.
Yeah.
My favorite is when Ren goes, "You idiot!"
It's just a long metal cable.
I spent a lot of time with that one.
Put this on the Atari 2600, we used to go full thrust and see how long it
Oh,
lasts.
so the screen wraps
Oh, it's
around.
like an obstacle course?
The screen wraps around, right? You go off
Yeah.
one side and
Yes,
come in the
that is
other.
correct.
Whoa.
And you can get going really, really fast and lose control.
You can hear the music getting faster as there are fewer asteroids. And your bullets actually are affected by your momentum. So if
Yeah.
you're going in one direction, you shoot in the other, your bullets go slowly. It's almost like it has physics or something.
It's always fun to fly really fast in one direction, spin around and shoot.
Very violent death. What's that?
Go fast the same direction, turn the ship around and shoot backwards. You'll see the missiles generally don't move at all.
Or you hit something.
I wouldn't be surprised if that's a Wilhelm scream that you hear when you
Visceral
die.
reaction when you crash there too.
Yeah, they're almost stationary.
Anyway, so that's Maelstrom. Much to Ed's delight. Sounds kind of like Sinistar there.
It does. I hunger.
There's another game that's like Asteroids called Argonaut. Ed, does this excite you? Okay. It came out in 2003, but it obviously works fine under Snow Leopard. And this screen actually scrolls, so you're always in the middle. And as you blow up different asteroids, you might actually find power-ups inside. Let's see if I can actually do that. Now, what's interesting, I thought about the mechanics of this game, is that if you're going really fast in one direction and you want to stop, you push the reverse button or the stop button. Whoop.
That's from Laura.
So that's the stop button.
That's how you stop. No, here, it actually turns you around and thrusts you in the opposite direction. It's just like you would have to actually do in space. You don't just come to a sudden stop in a vacuum.
Although I thought it odd that it didn't take you nearly as long to stop as it took you to accelerate.
That's about right, isn't it?
No, it should take the equal amount of time.
Exactly the same.
I'm sorry.
You have the same thrust?
Actually, there's a max speed, it looks like.
What's the smoke coming out of it?
That's the exhaust.
Yeah,
That's
on
jet.
fire. Does it really happen in space?
There's also a soundtrack, and
Well, it would
there is no
always
soundtrack
go
in space.
There's the buckle registration.
Space, no one can hear you.
Can hear your feet.
Can hear your theme. Well done. Thank you.
And what I like is that once this is not a one-hit kill game, I can fly right into these and I lose health, which brings me closer to death, but I don't die.
You sustain damage on an incremental basis.
Correct, as you can see in the upper left-hand corner. So, this is a fun game to fly around in for a while. That was my top score. It's me.
Obviously, hours of research was spent playing.
Yes, research. It's a tough life, I tell you. Rampart.
Oh yeah.
A game that existed for almost every system in the 80s. Every computer, every home console had some version of Rampart.
And almost nobody ever played it.
I loved Rampart.
I agree.
And you agree that I love Rampart? Thank you. It's basically, you build a castle, and these ships are firing at you to destroy your castle. You need to destroy the ships before they destroy your castle. After all the ships are destroyed, it switches to a rebuilding phase. And it's almost like Tetris, where you get to replenish your walls and hopefully even expand your territory. The more castles that
Are
your
there
walls
ships?
encompass, the more cannons you get with which to fire at the enemy. If this game were to come out today, we would probably call it a tower defense game.
Cool, I've never even heard of this game.
Oh, yeah. It's really not terribly common, although it was
It's the bomb
a lot of fun.
Yeah, see, that territory did not turn blue until he finished the entire circle or square. And there was a diagonal there that
There a
he had
time
to
limit?
complete. What's
Is there a
that?
time limit? Ships are coming after you?
Yes, there is a time limit. There's also, even when you're putting down your new cannons, there's a time limit in which you have to put down the cannons. If the ships make it to the land, they actually unload grunts onto the ground that walk up to your castle and try to attack it. So there are multiple fronts on which you're being attacked.
Cannon fodder.
More or less. what's the? Oh yeah. Ideally, all these games I'm showing you are Apple II games originally. I made a mistake last year. There was one game I showed you that nobody recognized, and that was because it was for the Nintendo only.
Whoops.
Which has the same processor as the Apple II. So.
From the era, that's not an excuse. They all have the same process.
That was an inspiration for someone to convert.
Well, that's true. So the 2600 has 507, I believe, which was a variant.
So this game is called Castle Combat. It also has online play. And even though there's a cursor here, there doesn't seem to be any mouse support. Like I can't click on a castle, choose which one. I have to use the key, the arrow keys.
It's making up for the trackpad.
Now I get to place my cannons. I have 2 cannons in which to place anywhere in the red area. And you can see these tanks, or grunts, are the ones that I'm going to be defending against.
Are you moving with the arrow?
Yes.
The arcade version actually used a trackball.
That's right, it did. That's very cool. And I can only have 2 cannonballs in the air at a time. There aren't many grunts yet on this level, so they haven't done much damage. Nonetheless, I still get to move pieces around and rotate them.
And if you can build around another castle,
Correct. Then I'll have that many more cannon pieces next time. But there is a time limit. And obviously I didn't get very far. I still do get new cannons, but there are also a lot more enemies, as you can see. And now they're actually starting to destroy my walls and get inside. The call's coming from inside the house.
well, it's a short attack.
I can't build on the... Yeah.
Is there any consideration in building that you have to clear a line for the cannonball?
No. Cannons are launched over the castle walls.
Always, by definition.
Yes. The cannon operators are smart enough to not shoot out their own walls.
Okay.
You can see I can shoot a lot more now. I can just keep hitting the return button, and there's always going to be something in the air. The levels are much shorter in this game compared to Rampart. You're not shooting for as long before it asks you to rebuild. And the rebuild phase seems to go pretty quickly, too.
They can't shoot at you while you're rebuilding?
No, this is a safe time for you.
Either a treaty or truce or
Timeout.
And that's it. It just keeps playing. I do want to see if I can get that last castle enveloped. Sometimes it's actually good for grunts to destroy the pieces that are in your way, because otherwise it can be really hard to build. And you can't put things over the grunts either, so there's no way I can... Well, I guess I could. That. But then I spent so much time rebuilding that castle, I didn't get the other one. And there's not really a lot of room in which to put more cannons. I have 2 more cannons allocated to me this level, but I only built enough space to put down one of them. So now I can't put down the other one, I just have to wait for the timer to run out, and I lose that cannon. Or rather, that potential cannon. Yeah, exactly. So that's Castle Combat, which is similar to Rampart. Let's see. Doing well on time. Bubble Bobble.
Oh yeah, Bubble Bobble.
Another game that was for more systems than most people can count. I played it primarily in the arcade, and when there was a Nintendo version, I got it for that as well. But it existed for the Apple II as well. This is an action game where you play these 2 dinosaurs known as Bub and Bob. The 2-player actually version is Bub and Bob. And you're basically bouncing around. There are a whole bunch of enemies that are coming at you, and you want to encase them in bubbles that you breathe. You're that kind of dragon.
These are all videos.
And once they are encased in a bubble, if you just hit them the right way, they will pop and probably turn into power-ups. And if you get all the bubbles together, they'll pop all at once, because one bubble burst will burst the other bubbles near it. And then the enemies turn into fruit that you eat, which is not very vegetarian.
Goes on for 100 levels.
And the soundtrack just keeps on playing. Every now and then these bubbles will pop up that say,
Never change.
If you collect them all, you can spell the word extend, and you get an extra life. Or actually an extra coin, or gameplay, whatever. Since this is based on the arcade game, it would be an extra gameplay. And now see, this guy's trying to get all the bubbles together, so you can just run at them, and they all burst. If you don't burst them quickly, the enemies actually do make it out of their balloon, and they're really pissed off. Kind of like in the original Mario Brothers game, when you knock an enemy over and you don't kick it, it then rights itself and it acts really quickly, or moves quickly. That's how these guys work if you don't kill them quickly. And they're all different sort of level configurations. Sometimes it's just random geometric shapes, sometimes it looks like a giant beluga whale. There are over 100 levels, and on the on the Nintendo version and the arcade version, the only way to beat it was in 2-player mode. After you beat the last level, it would say, you haven't finished the game. Try again with a friend. Oh. And so a lot of people would put a second coin in and just let the guy sit there in the corner and hope he didn't die. And then they'd go and try to beat it on their own. There are waterfall balloons that you just burst that basically just cascade down and drag everything with it. It's a very easy way to get a quick ride to the bottom of the screen. If you fall through a pit in the bottom, you just appear at the top. So it is a looping level. And see, there he is riding the waterfall. So, it looks really cute, and some people may have made fun of me for playing it, but I liked it.
Don't people still make fun of you for playing games?
Not that game. I learned not to play that game in public. Bub and Bob.
Gosh.
This game has been developed for probably the last decade. I mean, it's been available for the last decade, but the developer is always working on a new version, upgrading it, making sure it works with the latest Mac OS. He's really dedicated to it, which is probably one of the reasons it's actually a commercial game.
Like how much?
Oh, probably, I don't know, $10. I didn't actually write down that data for this presentation, but there will be links online to where you can get all these games. Let's see, how do I actually breathe? Oh, there's player 2. Didn't mean to do that.
Wah, wah.
Wah, wah. Sorry,
How do you make bubbles?
I forgot. I'm trying to figure it out. Okay, let me go back to the screen.
Congratulations, a high score. Try it now with breathing.
Shooting action.
Oh, the down key. Interesting. Alright, let's try that again. That actually sounds like a different soundtrack than the one we just had. You can see it plays almost identically. The balloons float up, you burst them, you get fruit. Now just teleport me to the next level. Some of these levels are actually exactly the same. Aww. The last enemy is always the meanest. Oh. Aww. Sad face.
I turned my sister onto that one, sure.
Yeah, these are all the same levels I grew up playing. So, it's not that he's ripping it off, because that's a very obvious homage. And you can just fall infinitely. And we just saw this level on the video I showed you, so. You can actually ride the balloons. If there's a spot you can't reach, you can jump off them very quickly. And there's the letter E. So, fun game. You can play it 2-player. Obviously very non-violent, so good for kids. No matter what age.
And did that one include a map editor? Ivan was asking, because he wants to make a map that has no place for him to be. It's kind of like how you manage your Sims, put them in a room with other words.
That's me. I don't see... Well, there's a folder here called Custom Levels. I don't see something called Level Editor, though. It might be...
There are a whole bunch of options at the bottom, that's why I asked.
Well, let me go back in and take a look. See 2 aspects.
One of the cool things about the Apple games, especially like Lode Runner, was that not only could you play the game, you could actually modify the game.
Oh, okay.
And add levels and all that. And it made it more challenging.
Right. Well, there's your answer. You can edit levels. You can even play other people's edited levels, but you need to buy it. And it just launched Safari, so I could buy it. But as I said, I'm doing this session without internet, so it will not actually load. But the answer is yes. And here is the level editing tool, actually. So you can access the level, or the editor. I haven't played with this in preparation for this session, so I don't know how it works.
Not a problem.
But there, yes, the answer is yes, you can do that.
How do the editing tools compare with the Apple II? Do they modify quite a bit for the Mac?
I have no idea. I don't think the Apple II version of Bubble Bobble had a level editor. And like I said, I haven't used the Mac level editor, so I don't know. But let's see. 10 more minutes. So let's go with Adventure, appropriate after last night. This is the original Adventure game with
Welcome to Adventure. Would you like instructions?
text-to-speech.
No. You are standing at the
So as you saw last night, the text-adventure genre was actually very popular with the unsighted, which is not something a lot of people consider. This is one of the few games that they could play as well as we could. It's something that's been taken away from them in the constant move to better and bigger and more important graphics.
What speech synthesizer is that?
I have no idea. This is not the Apple II. This is just the only version I could find a good video of. A lot of videos on YouTube of video games include the player narrating what he's doing. It's actually a genre of video called a Let's Play. And I didn't want you to hear somebody other than me talking.
There was a version that came with some versions of the Mockingbird.
Okay.
So that's probably what it is.
Well, it looked like, at the beginning of this video, it looked like a Unix prompt. So I'm guessing this wasn't the Apple II. Yeah. And if you want something similar for the Mac, you play Adventure. There, it is exactly the same thing.
I don't think
Except way faster.
Yeah, the frames per second on the text. So I need a Mac Pro for this.
What's interesting about this version of Adventure is that when 64-bit Snow Leopard came out last year, they actually updated this game to be 64-bit and run and maximize the capabilities of Snow Leopard. And if you go to their website and they ask you, why would you want to run Adventure under 64-bit? How is it improved by running under 64-bit? The answer is, you'll just have to run it and see for yourself. But this game has been ported almost everywhere. If you want any version of Adventure ever for any system, you can probably find a link to it from the website xyzzy.com, unsurprisingly. A little bit more complicated of an action game is Dark Castle.
Yeah.
That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Woo to the who. This was a really fun side-scrolling adventure game where you go exploring a castle. And that's one of the early levels, and you're that guy at the bottom. You're Duncan, who's running up the stairs right now. And there are guards and rats and more guards and bats. You can throw rocks at them like that. And you can now he's about to jump, and there he goes. I didn't know that actually. And there were multiple sequels for this. It actually started on the Apple II, I think, and they came out with a black and white Mac version, and they did a color Mac version. And they were working forever and ever and ever on a sequel, literally like over 10 years, almost as long as Duke Nukem Forever. Except finally, the Dark Castle sequel actually did come out. And as developer was our keynote speaker 2 years ago, which is really cool. This game came out just like a month after. So if you want to play the Mac version, that is available. It is a commercial product.
I bet it's a DOS version.
It is a commercial product, so you do need to buy it, but it comes with a demo. It has a training level.
According to the always reliable Wikipedia was on Mac first.
Yeah, it was a black and white Mac game.
That's right.
You know, I suspected that when I was saying that, and I didn't want it to be true, so I didn't say it.
We do manufacture our own reality here.
Thanks for ruining his whole presentation.
I was living in my own world here until it came rapping at my door.
So I held back and didn't say anything.
No life is ruined.
Yeah, I haven't got out of the bag, so
I know, I'm a bad person. What can I say?
I didn't say anything.
But look, here's the level.
Actually, I'm just out to get Ken.
Gosh, that looks familiar.
Here's the level we were just looking at.
Cool.
Use your mouse to aim to throw a rock.
That's awesome.
Now that is a faithful replication.
I'll say.
Does he jump like a spaz too?
Come and get me, what makes you? Come and get
You
me.
know, they did come out with it. This isn't the original publishers. This is a replication.
No, I think, I don't know if it's the exact same people, but it was developed with the cooperation of those involved in the
Got
original
it.
game.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Because I know they did that a few years ago.
Because then anyone sneak up behind him and throw a rock at me.
But it's not just a remake. It doesn't have just all the original levels. It actually does have an entirely new game in it.
Oh, brutal.
It's a game with a sense of humor, but it's also quite a deadly sense of humor.
Mummy's pistol. It's not exactly.
Fatality.
First, ask questions later.
Double fatality.
Yeah, the Mac version is amazing. Because the black and white art was actually super beautiful.
So this would be.
And this is all being done with the keyboard, except for aiming the rocks.
Trackball comes in handy.
Maximum disc efficiency.
That's so hard. I have trouble with that. Really.
But, let me show you.
I like this format. I like it.
And that, unless that may have seemed a bit complicated, and it kind of is, but there is a good training level that you can go through. Like it starts off just by asking you to run to the left, and then run to the right. And I'm like, good, you've mastered running. And then you go down here and you jump on the logs to go get that beverage in the corner. One thing I don't like is that it's not always clear where you need to go next. Like right now, it looks like there could potentially be 4 different exits from this room. But you have to look for that green arrow that appears to show you where to go next.
Jump into the wall.
Yeah, if you bounce off the wall, you get dizzy. It's really a very fun game. I wasted many happy hours.
And there is some combat involved.
That's what I was thinking.
You can see its color, actually.
Gotta pick up this shovel, and then put the shovel away. I don't want to know where he just put that. Now I picked up a bomb. I'm gonna go over here. Kneel, I think. Oh. Put the bomb down. Take the shovel out. There is a way to parry his attacks. Usually you wait for him to be off guard, and then you attack him.
With the shovel?
Right, with the shovel. And then you pull the switch that's behind him, the rope comes down, you climb up, you go into the castle. Pretty cool stuff.
It is Return to Dark Castle, yeah, okay. They did come out with that sequel.
Yeah, see, this it has 30 original levels, 50 brand new levels, so more than half of the game is completely original. You've never seen it before. It's pretty cool.
Were those like, was that like 4 levels that you just played?
That was, yeah, I think each room is a level.
Okay.
So you saw 2 levels of the actual game and the 2-level training area.
Okay.
Which I hope they don't count as part of the full game. Alright, I'm not going to have time to get to everything, but I do want to show you at least a few more. Ultima 3 also known as Ultima Exodus. When I was growing up, I simply called this game Ultima growing up because it was the first Ultima to ever came out for the Nintendo, which is the system I played all my games on.
I remember this game.
Sure.
Yeah,
It's one of the earliest RPGs created by Origin Systems.
Yeah, I wasted so many hours.
By Lord British.
Ultima 2 came with just the most beautiful packaging.
And there they are in combat. He has 4 people in his party: Karnov, Elrich, Irana, and Zernon Neon.
I do see the complete sets the one you made.
I hacked that game and printed out a map with all the special things on it.
Of course. I think the original Ultima 1 was in BASIC, actually. Made it very easy to hack.
Colobeth was actually Ultima 0.
That's right, Colobeth was Ultima 0.
And it was all...
May I have the session back, please?
Sorry.
Thank you. There is an authorized recreation of Ultima 3 for the Macintosh that you can download for free.
That's awesome.
So you go in and you have to, you can create characters. There are all different classes that you can choose from. And it tells you at the bottom what their strengths are. I'm going to name him Lancelot. And you can adjust where his points are allocated to. I'm going to make him not the brightest bulb. Actually, really not the brightest bulb.
But very strong.
Yeah. Different races, including bobbits and fuzzies. Not the kind of things you'd find in Tolkien's world. And you can even change right here what class you already selected. So the default characteristics are those for the class you chose. Like this, basically, this is what you would want to do.
You want it to be an alchemist?
That's fuzzies, not furries, right?
Right.
Different website.
And this is the game. What I really like about this game a lot is that you can choose what it looks like.
No, nice.
This is the Macintosh character set or tile set. I'm actually just going to turn on automatic combat and just let the game play itself for this part so that I can focus on the exploration and the demonstration. But all I have to do is, oh, I can't do anything. So it's a very strategic game because a lot of games you just choose fight or magic, and this actually is where do you want to be standing in relation to your opponent, and that can determine whether you live or die. I hope I live. I have a lot more to say about this game.
Sure, fighting a lot of people.
Well, it's 4-2 now, so I'm hopeful. Huh. A lot of misses. Gangbang.
Excuse me?
Sorry. I'm gonna have Roderick open the chest, and I got 70 gold. But as I was saying, the But as I was saying, you can change the tiles.
Nice.
So you can play the Apple. So it looks like you're playing the Apple II, which you just saw a video of a second ago. You can actually change it to Apple Mono.
I like it. Yeah, that's why I played it.
There's a
Yeah, but does it recreate the bug where you could board an enemy ship and then leave that as a ghost and then build a bridge out of those throughout the con?
I don't know.
Oh yeah.
So that's what it looked like on the Macintosh. This is the version I played growing up. Very different. Same gameplay, just very different look. There's also a Macintosh recreation of Ultima 4. And there are also recreations of Ultima 5 and 6. The recreation of Ultima 6 actually just came out last month. Actually this month, after being worked on for 8 years. But Ultima 5 and 6 require that you have a copy of Dungeon Siege, which itself is an 8-year-old game for the Mac and the PC. And then it's a mod that you install on that. Ultima 6 was the first Ultima game to not come out for the Apple II. So I don't know why you want to play a Mac version.
Yeah, that's
totally lame. Also, some people may have heard of something called Ultima 0, also known as, I'm probably gonna mispronounce this, Akalabeth?
Yes, well done.
Just last week, they came out with a Akalabeth app for the iPhone.
Cool.
And it's authorized and it looks just like the original. So you can download that for your iPhone. It's like a buck or two. One last thing I want to show you is actually not for the Macintosh, but I think you'll appreciate it.
What, no mule?
Next year.
Okay.
Half of the games I showed you this year, I meant to show you last year. So, one of the original point and adventure games from Sierra Online, they made 7, maybe 8 of these. I think it was 7. Originally transitioned off, eventually transitioned away from the Apple II. A bunch of players who love the King's Quest series didn't want the series to end, but there was no more sequels coming. So they decided we're going to make our own. We won't even call it King's Quest, we'll call it The Silver Lining. And they worked on it and worked on it. Sierra Online found out, they shut it down. They came to terms with Sierra Online, they said, okay, you can work on it, just don't call it King's Quest. They worked on it, Sierra Online got bought out or something, the new buyers shut them down. They came to an agreement, they started working on it again. Earlier this year, they were almost done, got bought out again, they shut them down. A month later, they came to an agreement, and this time they actually finished it, and it came out.
Really?
Yes. If I can just find it.
Very recently, right?
There it is. This is a trailer for it. Doesn't show much gameplay, but this is and I think it demonstrates the amount of effort that they have put into this. And that was a quote from Roberta Williams, who founded the series. It's all the same characters, same storyline.
Slightly better graphics.
You know, that's the same guy that you just saw in the Apple II video with the same red shirt and pointy hat. They can't call it King's Quest, but they can use those words. It is a free game. Part of their agreement is that they cannot sell it. It is being released in episodes rather than continue to wait to work on it for years. They're releasing it as they progress. You can download the first version for free, and it's only for the PC. So, but it doesn't require Dungeon Siege or a payment or anything else.
Was there any gameplay in that trailer?
Not a lick, which is interesting because that trailer actually came out the same day as the game. So by then the gameplay was complete.
Yeah.
I did try downloading it, even though I don't have a PC, and it seemed to require free registration. And since I wasn't going to be able to play it anyway, I just kind of stopped at that point. But you can download it for free, and all of these links will be online. So that is my gameplay session. I hope you enjoyed watching me play games.
Thank you, Ken.
Now I'm going to go right into Know Your Meme.